Okay, Dan Dippel, aka 1000styles. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I told you a little bit how big of a fan I am of your work, and I've been a fan of your work for like 15 years now, which seems insane. But when I was in college, I went to college for art and interactive media websites and stuff, and trying to find inspiration and references and styles that I liked, kind of trying to develop my own style.
Yeah,
And I remember finding your work back then, and I had a couple friends that were into art, and just sharing your paintings and art just back and forth. Whenever you'd update your website or whatever, just be like, "Oh, did you see this new one, man?" We were just such a fan of your work, and as I was kind of looking through your Instagram and your website as I was kind of preparing for this podcast, I just realized how much we looked at your stuff back then. I was like, oh my God, we were like
that's
practically
cool.
stalking this dude at that point. Like we just kept up with all your work, and even my website. I ended up developing a website for my paintings and just almost like a resume of sorts at that time. It
Yeah.
was even kind of styled after yours. I think it was probably like a WordPress site or something at the time. But
Oh, yeah. Way back in
even
the day.
that was just probably a rip off of your website and your style and everything you were doing.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
But at the time you were doing stuff on like shoes and hats, and I was a poor college kid, so I'd go to Goodwill and buy a stack of $1 a piece records and paint on there. I think
Yeah, yeah.
I think you did some vinyl records too, right?
Yep. Sure did.
And I
Same
would,
deal.
I'd spray paint something on it and then paint something over top of it, and I think it was just a pure rip off of whatever you were doing back then.
That's all right. I'm sure I stole it from somebody else, and they stole it from somebody else. I mean, that's just how it
Yeah,
goes. You just put your own spin on it.
yeah. So where did that style come from? How did that start?
Those kinds of things back in those days. I suppose it probably grew out of my interest in graffiti. Um,
And you're in New York, is that right?
yeah. Upstate New York. Um,
Which is also funny because I live in the Midwest, where me doing graffiti style is hilarious, but it makes a lot more sense for you, I'm sure.
yeah, I'm a few hours from New York City, so obviously the mecca of graffiti. So that's it bled out from there many years ago, and I was just a very small part of that scene, not in New York, but where I lived in Syracuse, and it was quite a passion for quite a while, several years, and I, in addition to actually, writing graph, I would, do the things like the sneakers and the hats and painting on vinyl records. And, it always started with the spray paint, and then I would use paint markers and whatever else I had around to expand upon it. And, try to translate that graffiti style and that sort of aesthetic to something that you can hold in your hand, or sell at a show, or put up on your website and not get in trouble for it, or whatever. So I guess it kind of grew from that, and I was always super interested in drawing characters and creatures and stuff like that. And uh, writing graffiti, you get to do some of that, but it's mostly letter based, of course, so you don't get to do much of that. So being able to paint characters on vinyl records and shoes and hats and shirts and jackets and whatever else was a way for that to, for me to do that kind of stuff too. So
Yeah.
I suppose it all kind of came from that.
Were you a full-time artist at that point, or do you have a day job too?
Um, at that point, no, I was both day job and artist, kind of the same as I am now. I have a
Okay.
9 to 5, always have. Um, yeah, that was, I mean, those days, that was probably, between 2000 2005. So I was recently out of college, um, but yeah, had a 9 to 5 doing graphic design for a local university here or in Syracuse, and did the hats and shirts and all the other stuff nights and weekends, and that's kind of when I started my freelancing also around the same time.
Cool. Yeah, like I said, we were just such a fan of all that stuff, and tried to imitate it the best we could, and I don't know that we did a good job. I eventually I eventually kind of like I don't stop kind of paying attention to art painting and that kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
I got a job as a graphic artist, and it was more of like corporate design, brochures and flyers and logos,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of like fell out of it a little bit. And then, getting on Instagram and seeing your work again, and you had already like kind of just jumped from like painting on shoes and hats to like designing gig posters for some of the biggest bands in rock. So a lot happened in those few years that I was kind of out of the loop, apparently.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I've always tried to. Well, I guess in those days, I was just trying to find what felt right for me. I guess in terms of what direction to go as a freelance illustrator. I mean, I've always been interested in graphic design. Always been interested in illustration, but there's a million different directions you can go with either of those sort of you know, methods or whatever you want to call them, either of those pursuits. And I've tried quite a few different ones and with varying degrees of success, both in my own head and also commercially. Um, and I guess, those years between 2000 and like 2014, 2015, it was just like, well, maybe I want to do album covers. Maybe I want to do just, promotional flyers and ad mats. Maybe I want to do, strictly graphic design stuff like business cards, letterhead, logos, promotional stuff, web design, web graphics. I was kind of all over the place for a little while, but then I kind of landed on. I always knew I wanted to be music related because music has always been a passion of mine just as much, if not more so, than artwork. Um, just the visual art is where my talents are, so that's what I've always concentrated on for my own output. But anyways, I always knew I wanted my visual art work to be um, in the field of music in some way, and it took me until like, I don't know, 2014 or so to land on gig posters as kind of like, all right, this definitely feels right. This feels good. There's nothing I don't like about this. It's definitely going to be something that I want to pursue and be kind of like what I want to do. So yeah, right around there is when I kind of decided that this is the direction I want to go.
I should have probably intro you a little better and mentioned that you've done posters for Foo Fighters, Metallica, Queens of the Stone Age. I think I saw Mastodon in there, maybe.
Yep. Yep. That's fine
Primus. I
too.
mean, some huge bands. And I remember even when you were still doing a lot of painting and stuff, you had Gym Class Heroes in there, maybe.
Yeah. 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 Because
How did that come about? Was that like maybe your first big gig, or?
yeah, that was definitely one of my first major ones. I actually know Travis from Gym Class Heroes. He's from Geneva, Geneva, New
Okay.
York, which is in upstate. It's like an hour from Syracuse. I've got some friends that know him. I know him, and when he was kind of becoming big in Gym Class Heroes, you know, um, I got to know him a little bit, and uh, this other guy I know, Steve. He was part of a kind of like a Gym Class Heroes side project called Bernie Allen with Travis. It was kind of a little bit more hip hop based, I guess. A little bit less Gym Class Heroes, a little bit more indie hip hop sort of thing. And I did some graphics for them when they were like re-releasing an album that they had recorded a few years prior to that. And then from there, it just kind of uh, you know got elevated to hey, you want to do some stuff for Gym Class? And I was like, yeah, of course. I mean, they were huge at the time, still are. It was really an awesome opportunity. Did some t-shirt graphics for them, um, and some other things, and yeah, it worked out great. They sold the shirts on their tours. I did a jacket, a big like kind of a back patch, like a motorcycle club back patch for a jacket
Mhm.
for some of their tour merch. And did quite a few different projects for them over 2 or 3 years at the time, and that was a lot of fun. That was probably my first, I guess, I guess I would call that my first musical visual art gig that was kind of like, pretty high up there in terms of the level it was at.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really cool.
So what is it like working with some of these big bands, Foo Fighters, Queens? I'll leave Metallica out of it because they're kind of in their own world, even outside of them a little bit. And we'll definitely talk about Metallica in a minute. But some of these bands, do you have an idea and you submit it to them? Do they come to you and say, we like your stuff? Do you deal with the band or like management, or just how does that whole process work of working with some of those big bands?
Um, well, I've never worked with the band directly, with the exception of Gym Class Heroes and uh, some of the other earlier stuff that I did for the big bands, Foo Fighters, Queens, and them. I never deal with the band directly. It's always with the band's management or the merchandising company that the band hires to handle all their tour merch and stuff.
Hmm.
It's always a representative from one of those camps, and
Do
in
they
the
have a
past,
final say in it? Do you think they look at it and go, yeah, this is what we were looking for, or is it kind of even out of their hands at that point?
I really couldn't tell you. I would imagine that they probably, at least in some cases, the band's manager will throw the artwork to them and say, "Hey, is this okay?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I'm sure they got a million different things to do in every day, and I,
Right.
I doubt they see everything. But I would say that's probably happening at sometimes at least. But I think the management part of their job is to know if the band is going to like the poster or not, and be able to sign off on those kinds of things
Hmm.
without having to send it to the members of the band themselves. But but that's fine. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm just super stoked that I get to do this kind of thing.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah.
It's an amazing thing, and back probably 5 or 10 years ago, I would search out, and the different merchandising companies that dealt with the kinds of bands that I was interested in doing work for, and try to contact them, send them some of my work, and say, hey, I want to do album covers, flyers, gig posters, ad mats, whatever, these kinds of bands. This is the kind of stuff I do. Here's some examples. I would love to do some work for you, whatever. But and that would, once in a while it would hit, and I would get some work out of it. But um, these days, I don't need to do that anymore. I got more work than I can handle. They kind of find me now, which is kind of nice, and I've gotten repeat work through the same merchandising people, time after time. Like, I've done multiple Foo Fighters posters now. I've done multiple projects for Metallica. I've done multiple Primus posters. So um, in some cases, it's the same guys that I've worked with before coming back and saying, hey, you want to do another one? So it's kind of
Hmm.
nice in a lot of ways there too. But yeah, so they just contact me, whether it's repeat or brand new, and they just say, hey, we saw your Foo Fighters poster or whatever. We really like it. Would you be interested in doing a poster for Queens for their upcoming tour, or Mastodon, or whatever? And most of the time the answer is like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm
Right.
definitely down for it. I mean, most of the bands I've done work for, I listen to on a daily basis already. So it's like, like, yeah, I'm definitely interested. Give me the details. I'll get started on it as soon as I can. And um, but yeah, in terms of process, I guess it's kind of, they'll bring me the project. They'll, give me the details of the gig. Give me, usually um, there's no like direction. Um, like, we want, there's very little art direction. I guess is the right term. They don't tell me what they want. They just tell me. Occasionally, there'll be a few things that I can't do. Like, um, we don't want this, or we don't want that. We don't want. Um, I don't know. Just sometimes it's pretty random, but I leave those things out and I sketch out some ideas and send them to them, and kind of go from there.
I've noticed that a lot of gig posters, I guess I don't know what the process is for some of them, but they almost seem like someone just took a piece of work that they had and slapped a band logo at the top of it, because it's like you can do like a Black Keys album or a gig poster, and it's like, I don't know, a dragonfly flying, and you're like, what? How did you get there from, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I was just wondering what like your process is, because like the Queens of the Stone Age one is one of my favorites ever. I have a couple Queens of Stone Age posters myself, and it just represented them. It looked like them. It felt like them, you know. And then you see some other posters where you're like, I don't know how you got there from that band, you know. And it just
yeah.
seems like they had a piece of art in their back pocket, and they said, "Here, you can have this one. I'll just put the logo at the top, put the dates. We're good to go."
Mhm.
So, what is that process like for you? Do you know? Do they give you a concept? Do you go, I'm thinking of a certain song and the vibe of it, and trying to emulate that on paper, or how do you approach it?
Um, I don't know. It's different for everyone. Different for every project. Different for every band. I definitely agree. I see a lot of gig posters that are seemingly pretty random, but that they're amazing nonetheless. So
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
still
know.
great art. It's nothing against the artist, but it's like, I
Yeah,
don't know how you got there. You know,
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
you're obviously very talented, but the connection is lost somewhere.
Yeah, and I think I think in some ways that happens because I don't know. I mean, like a band will do 100 shows in a year, and they can't all be based on the same 5 songs or the same album that's that they're touring with or whatever.
Sure.
So the artists will just kind of go off on a tangent and see what looks cool, and if it's related to the band, great. If it's not, then so be it, I guess. But for me, my process is I try to tie in the band and their music as much as I can. Like I said, I listen to most of the bands that I've done posters for, so it's not hard for me to kind of be in the I guess the vibe of the band's music when I'm kind of brainstorming for the poster.
Hmm.
Like for that Queens of the Stone Age, that's still one of my favorites that I've done as well. And you know they have a really like their music and their whole vibe to me is just very that poster. Like
Yeah.
when I hear their music and when I think of that band, I mean that's what I think of is like Palm Springs, deserts, hot rods.
Yeah.
It's just that whole kind of aesthetic just kind of appears to me in my head. So it was not hard for me to come up with that one. And I think it kind of vibes with the band really well. The colors go with it and all that. Colors go with the subject matter and the aesthetic and all that. But and sometimes it's easy like that one. That I mean that was not an easy poster to do, but it was I had the aesthetic and I had the kind of feel that I wanted from pretty early on. Other times it's not so easy. I try to listen to the music, try to just kind of see where the music takes me in my head, and eventually I come up with a concept. Most of the time, it's when I'm not trying to do it. I guess I'll be like falling asleep at night or waking up in the morning, and that's when I'll get like a seed of something that I'll then develop into what becomes a poster.
How
But it's
many preliminary sketches do you go through typically for a gig poster? Ideas that you scrap?
um, sometimes quite a few. Even the ones that I end up going with, I'll do probably at least 4 or 5 sketches before I even do the one that I show the customer or the client to get an approval to move forward with it. But sometimes when I'm brainstorming concepts, I don't know, 10 or 15 usually,
Yeah.
that I go through and kind of evaluate like, all right, this part's good, this part's not so good. Can I improve that? Can I improve this? And sometimes it develops from there and becomes something. Sometimes it doesn't, and I just scrap it and start over from scratch.
What does it look like, what you show the band to get approval to move forward? Because I was just talking to another artist a couple episodes ago, and I was like, I've done a couple of album covers for like friends' bands and stuff, and they're
Hmm.
like, "How's it going? Let's see what you got." And I'm like, "Fuck no, I don't want to do that," because I just had this feeling they're gonna look at it unfinished and kind of go, ugh, I don't know, it's not quite there yet. And in
Yeah.
my head, I'm going, I know it's not there. I know it's not there yet. It'll get better. But I think their brain goes, this is not looking good. We should hire somebody else. So, like, how far do you get down the road? How clean does your sketch have to be? How flushed out does the idea have to be for you to be comfortable, like, showing them what you're thinking without fear of them going, this was a bad move. We got to hire someone else.
I definitely struggle with that. Um, I would say prior to maybe a year ago, I would do way more than what was probably actually necessary before I showed them anything. You know, because I've always thought the same thing. Like ever since the beginning of doing freelance work, like, all right, they're not going to understand what I'm seeing in my head as the finished product, so I need to
Yeah.
really flesh it out and make it a solid piece in this sketch, so they really know what I'm trying to do, and they're not going to just ghost me and never call me again,
Because
even
even
though.
even until it's like actually completed, it's not completed. The
Yeah,
colors aren't
yeah,
quite
yeah,
right yet. The lines just aren't quite clean enough, or whatever it is. I wouldn't feel really comfortable until I'm like, this is 100% done, and that's
yeah,
that's never okay. I
and
mean,
yeah, and of course you
no
can't do
one's
that.
asking you for 100% done ever.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. It's always been difficult for me to stop a sketch and say, all right, this is good enough for a sketch. If they tell me it's cool, I'll go forward. But up until a couple years ago, I was going way too far with them. My wife was always telling me like, "This is a full out art piece. You're just doing a sketch. This could get turned down. And you have to go start from scratch. Like you need to chill. Like stop doing this."
yeah,
But until recently, I thought, I'm not some crazy famous artist. Like I really need to make sure that they know what I'm thinking before they just disappear on me. But
right.
these days, I mean, I'm still no crazy famous artist or anything, but I think I'm working with enough people now who have seen my work, my other recent jobs, my other recent work, and they kind of come to me with a little bit of an understanding of what I do and how I do it and what I can do, I guess,
Yeah,
where I kind of feel, I guess I'm a little more confident in sending sketches out there that are a little less finished because I kind of feel like they know that they're going to get, uh, you know, something at the level of my last Foo Fighters poster or my last Metallica poster, and they're not going to be scared away by what I feel like is a substandard sketch. But I do tend to, I think, elaborate verbally in the email that I'm sending them the sketch. All right, this is what I'm thinking. I know it's a little rough, but I'm going to have this in the background, and these tones are going to be here, and I'm not sure about colors yet, but this is what's going on in the foreground, and and I probably do a little bit too much of that too, but
yeah.
I don't know. It seems to be working okay now.
What is your like? What's your actual process for creating the stuff? Do you start with the hand drawn thing? You scan it? Are you just completely like digital at this point?
No, rarely is it all digital. Once in a while, if I'm like super pressed for time, I will go entirely digital. But normally, the process is sketching things out on paper, send them, scan and send them that sketch. Once the sketch gets approved, then I'll develop the sketch further, make it bigger, um, put it on an actual piece of art paper at either full size or close to it, and then flesh out the drawing so that every line that I want to draw in ink is exactly where it's supposed to be on the paper already in pencil. I try not to kind of make any artistic decisions with the ink. I try to do that all in the pencil stage. Um, that way, the inking is more confident and less mistakes.
Sure.
So once the drawing is completely laid out and every line is in place, um, I'll just ink the drawing. With a combination of different pens. I have a Pentel brush pen that I use, and I use Pigma Micron pens in varying thicknesses, like a lot of the guys do that do the kind of work that I do. Um, and sometimes even like actual India ink with a brush or a quill, depending on what I'm trying to do. And then once I get the whole thing inked out, I'll scan it, usually in multiple chunks because my scanner is 8.5 by 14 or something, and I'm normally working a lot bigger than that. And then I piece it together in Photoshop, tweak the ink so that it's all solid black, no shades of gray. And then I go back and forth between Photoshop and Procreate on my iPad for colors and textures and text and whatever else I have to add into the piece. And at that point, it's all digital, but up through the inks, it's normally traditional by
Yeah.
hand.
Do you do any paintings of any sort anymore?
Not usually, no.
Okay.
Once in a great while I will, but I really just don't have the time for it anymore. I don't have the time to do any personal work really. It's pretty rare to be just, I have a bunch of hours on my hands to do a personal piece of art. I'm either working, my regular 9 to 5 job, or I'm doing a freelance gig, or just normal life stuff, kids, wife, house, all that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. So when did you might have mentioned this a little bit, like when you started getting into the digital stuff, but how did you start going from, painting physical work to digital? Did you have to teach yourself how to do that, or did you go to school for that, or you were a designer before a lot of this?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yep. I went to Syracuse University for illustration.
Oh, okay.
I have a degree from there, and that was a great foundation for this kind of stuff. But it was like I'm old enough where this was like very, very early Photoshop, very early Illustrator. InDesign wasn't even out yet. We were using PageMaker. It
Uh-huh.
was like Acrobat 2 or something like that. I mean, it was. I went to college from '96 to 2000, so this was like the internet was kind of brand new at the time. So um, I learned Photoshop and a little bit of Illustrator in college, and that definitely helped. Um, with what I do now, and I've continued to use it ever since, and I've gotten better at it. I'm no expert in um, either program, but I know enough to do what I want to do. But yeah, transitioning from painting to Photoshop for color and stuff like that was just for me kind of a no brainer. Like I always, I know what I want to do when it comes to inking on paper, but then when I'm starting to add color, I change my mind on color 100 times before I'm done with a poster or done with a t-shirt graphic or whatever. And when you're painting a t-shirt graphic or a poster, it's you get one chance and that's it. Otherwise, you're modifying color in Photoshop later anyway. So it just made a lot of sense um, to switch to digital when it came to color. Came time to color when I got that. When I got to that point, and in addition to just being able to change things and work faster and have that color gamut available to you at all times, uh, it also made sense from a production standpoint. Posters and t-shirt graphics are all done with individual colors, screen printed. So being able to keep those colors separate on their own layers in Photoshop made a ton of sense with having being able to output the artwork in a way that could be printed.
Right.
Um, and also it eliminates the I guess the tonal varieties that you would see in a painting, because you got to have flat color in a screen print. So painting with watercolor or acrylics or whatever, you're going to get color variations, which of course in a painting is great. That's what you want. But with a screen print, you got to have flat colors. So it really makes a lot of sense for me anyway, to do the color digitally.
Yeah. Do you think your work has changed at all going to digital? Because I mean, for me, someone that's seen your stuff for a long time, I can still see it's very much your work. But I mean, it's more intricate, if anything, I guess. But Do you feel like
Yeah.
it's changed?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's always evolving. Um, and I guess I would hesitate to just use the word change because um, that kind of could be good or could be bad. But I feel like it's always evolving and becoming, um, you know, becoming more. I don't know how to describe it, but it's yeah. I guess just evolving. It's doing what it's supposed to do. I feel like every piece I do should be better than the last one. That's what I try to do. I feel like I want to improve all the time. So yeah, change is good. Evolution is good.
Mhm. So let's get back to like working with the bands, and we kind of glossed over Metallica a little bit, but what was that like getting told that you were going to do a Metallica poster? Because they're probably not even arguably, the biggest band ever.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for
like,
real.
I know that you're a fan, so it must have been insane to hear that you're going to do something for Metallica, and what was that process like?
Yeah, it definitely was insane. I'm the kind of person that always feels like I'm not there yet. I need to once I get to this point, then I'm going to consider myself successful or whatever. And I get to that point, and it's always like, oh, there's another step. There's another step after that, and I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. Always got that kind of
Imposter syndrome,
attitude. Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah.
which is good. I mean, I feel like staying hungry, staying ambitious is a good thing. But it also is kind of depressing in a way that you never feel like you're where you want to be.
Right.
But with this gig, it was kind of like, okay, this I could kind of it felt a little different. It felt like this is it doesn't get bigger than Metallica. It's doing a poster for them, especially. I did a couple t-shirt graphics prior to the poster, and it was that was the same thing at the time. It was like, holy crap, I'm doing t-shirts for Metallica. It's like I've I've been a fan of theirs since Ride the Lightning was the current record.
Yeah.
That's a long time. And it was amazing to get the t-shirt gigs, but then the poster on top of that, I definitely feel like doing posters is like a big step up from t-shirt graphics in a lot of ways, at least for me. Um, so being asked to do the poster, especially not just any gig poster, but it was like one of the Black Album posters
Right.
for the reissue. It felt like a really big deal. I think it is a really big deal, and it was just an amazing feeling to
On top of that,
do that.
they interviewed you for the So What magazine. What was that
Yeah,
like?
yeah, that was awesome too. I don't think I've ever. Well, I guess I've done a few other like minor interviews before, but this one was definitely head and shoulders above all the rest, and it was pretty awesome. Like I'm still hearing about it from people that I know that are just finding out about it and whatever, and it was just like it just is just surreal to be in that position. It's like I
Yeah.
felt like I wasn't worthy, I guess. Like I'm a huge fan of a bunch of different artists out there, like you are, like everybody is, and this felt like something that a more accomplished, more famous artist should be doing, and I had like stolen their spot in this gig somehow, and but yeah, it was just surreal. It was amazing. It still is. I think the reaction to my poster was pretty amazing. People really seemed to like it. I mean, they were immediately on eBay for like $1,000. So I guess it worked out pretty well. It was pretty amazing experience, and it's yeah, I don't even really know how to describe it, but it's pretty awesome.
What's it like working with a band like that as far as like did they like send you the package? Did they send you like a signed poster? Did they send you the Black Album reissue thing? Did you have
No,
any contact? They send you a personal letter thanking you? I mean, what was it like, getting something back from them for the job?
I didn't get any. Well, I can't say I didn't get anything, but I didn't get any of those like swag perks or anything. I mean,
Uh huh.
I got paid well to do the artwork, and I got 15 posters to sell, which I was able to sell for quite a bit more than the average poster. So I was well compensated for the gig, and that was enough for me. I still have my Black Album tape that I bought in 1991. So swag and stuff like that is always nice, but for me, the real reward was just being able to do the project in the first place,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
being
Insane.
able to do what I wanted. They gave me a choice of the different songs. I'd pick a song and do a poster based on the song, and I got to choose the song that I did. I got to do whatever subject matter I wanted. Do the poster however I wanted. They took care of printing, which is cool. Sent me the posters, and they turned out really well. Um, yeah, I don't know. It was just an amazing experience all around.
Very cool. So, I've talked to a lot of bands on here, and when you're in a band, you probably expect to get fans over the years. I mean, anyone that listens to your music or buys your music or comes to your show, you kind of consider a fan, hopefully.
Yeah.
But as an artist, you kind of work like piece by piece, or at least that's kind of how I felt when I was doing more of it. You kind of work on one piece for yourself almost, and you hope that one person likes it enough to purchase it. What is it like being an artist that's been in it for a while and having like fans, like people that follow you or like are fans of your work, like myself that have been followed it for long enough to where I would consider myself a fan of your work? As a visual artist, what is it like having fans?
Um, it's weird. I guess I never thought of myself as ever being in that position, or ever having the possibility of being in that position. I'm the fan. I'm not the person who has fans. Like
Right.
that's always the way my mind works. But I guess I do have some fans out there now, and that's pretty cool. Um, I have some people that have, every time I release a poster, they buy one. So I guess that would, that regardless of the band. So I guess, that's just kind of blows my mind. I guess,
Right.
it's, doing gig posters. One of the best parts about doing a gig poster is like you do one piece of art and then you can sell it 100 times. I mean, that's like the perfect situation for an artist, right? Like, instead of selling, making a piece and selling one piece and then making another piece and selling that piece, it's like you make one image, sell it 100 times. You're 99 times better off than you would be going the other direction. Being like a fine artist or whatever. So that's always appealed to me, and gig posters kind of fulfills that sort of goal. But um, it's always been like, all right, you did this image for this band, and you got 100 of them, and 100 people bought them, but they're fans of the band. It's like that's great. I still sold 100 posters. I'll move on to the next one and do it again. Hopefully do it again. But it's now, I think it's to the point where a decent percentage of that 100 is people that are buying the poster because they like the poster and they like my work rather than
Sure.
just being a fan of the band, which is awesome. It's never occurred to me that that would ever happen. I was always content with just doing the poster for the band that I love, and being able to sell them is a bonus on top of that. But having actual fans of my work, that's like next level. So
Yeah.
I'm super appreciative of everybody that follows my stuff, and I really hope that that continues and people continue to like what I do and how my work changes in the future, and the projects I have coming up and all that stuff. It's pretty awesome.
Right. You've done Metallica, Queens of Stone Age, and Mastodon. That would be like my top three, and you've done all of them. But do you have a bucket list of artists you'd like to work with that you haven't been able to yet?
um, yeah, I guess. Let me think. I want to do a 311 poster because I've been a fan of theirs since 1995. Um, I want to do a Billy Strings poster because I'm a fan of his, and I think I would have a lot of fun doing something like that. It's a totally different um, type of music, so I think I'd end up doing a very different kind of poster. So I think that would be a lot of fun. Let's see who else. Black Keys is on my list. I'd love to do one for them. Um, I really like their music, and that's another thing. They're very different than a lot of the other stuff I listen to. So I think the poster would really be, a big challenge, and I think I'd really end up liking the result. Um, let's see who else. I mean, there's a ton of different metal bands that I'd love to do work for, but they don't do posters like, like Gate
Yeah.
Creeper and Monolord and I don't know. I could Black Dahlia Murder. I could go on for days, but they tend to just stick to the traditional kinds of merch. They don't do limited posters and stuff. High on Fire, that's another one. Sleep, that's a huge one. I'd
Pretty
love to
cool.
do I'd love to do something for Sleep. I know they do posters, so
I
that's
just I was at Bongzilla at a brewery like a month ago,
awesome.
and they were selling out a bunch of like old merch and stuff, and including some gig posters that were
Oh
like
yeah,
it was Bongzilla, High on Fire, and Mastodon actually were on
oh
the
cool.
bill. And the poster was like Jesus on the cross getting blown by Satan. And and I had to buy it. I don't know. I'll never be able to hang it up because I have kids. I'll never be
Yeah,
able to put
yeah,
it up in my office. But I had to buy it.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I got a bunch of T-shirts in my drawer that I can never wear, but
yeah,
you see them at a show and you got to have them, and then you get home and realize you got two little kids and they can read
yeah.
now, so it's like there goes that.
Yeah. I
But
even have a limited window of how long I can probably wear the Bongzilla shirt itself until they realize like what a bong is, I guess, or something. I don't know, but
yeah, the problem with being a metalhead and also having kids, I guess
yeah.
you got to kind of censor yourself a little bit once in a while.
So if you weren't doing this, if you weren't an artist, what would you be doing? Do you think?
Oh, geez, good question.
Do you ever have any ambitions of being in a band yourself, or is there something else that you'd rather be doing?
No, I've never. I mean, I no, I've never wanted to be in a band myself. I suppose probably because I've always thought that the visual art side of music is where I'm supposed to be. I guess. Um, but if I wasn't doing something art related, um, geez, I don't even know. I guess I got no plan B.
Well, I'm
Well, I
glad you
mean,
made
I,
it then.
I guess I'm already doing a plan B. I mean, my 9 to 5 is I manage the printing and mailing operations for a state university. So I suppose that would be my if I wasn't doing any sort of creative visual art, I would probably just be doing that. I suppose.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't really have any direction other than that. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm glad I'm doing all right with it.
Yeah. Well, I have a game for you. I call it Real or Fuzzed. We've done it a handful of times here on the podcast, and I made a concert poster edition just for you. I'm going
Wow.
to show you 10 images of concert posters, one by one. Some are real and some are fake, some that I made. And you have to decide which one's real or fake. And
Okay.
they're all outrageous in their own special ways. So,
Can't wait. Sounds good.
yeah. All right. First one, the revolting cocks.
um,
Is this a real poster or is it a slightly fuzzed poster?
I'm guessing that's real based on what little I know about the band.
It
Am I
is real.
right? All
It is
right.
real. Shitfucker is the name of this band.
Let's see. That one I'm gonna guess is fake.
This one is real.
Oh man. Wow.
This is like the third time we've talked about shitfucker on this podcast because they just have too good of stuff to ignore, I guess.
I love it. It's an awesome poster.
Catastica.
Star Party and I'm gonna guess fake on that one.
This one's real.
I'm not doing very good at this game.
I lived in Austin for a couple of years, and this was actually hanging on like a telephone pole or something, and I took it because it looked awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Duck butter and the Fermunda cheese.
I'm gonna guess fake on that one.
This one is fake. Diarrhea Planet.
Diarrhea Planet. Left and right. That one I'm going to say is real.
This one is real.
Because that cat was a lot of work for somebody.
Yeah. Joy with murder.
That one. I'm gonna go with fake on that one.
This one's fake.
The text looked a little hurried. That's what I'm guessing.
Jack Officers.
That one I'm guessing is real.
It is real.
Love it.
Kill the kids first.
We can guess fake on that one.
It is fake. Now you're getting it.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a better handle on this.
Piss jeans.
These are great. I'm gonna guess real on that one.
It is real.
All right.
Kind of thought I was gonna get you on that one. Melvin's.
We'll go with real on that one. That seems like something they could do.
It does, but it's fake.
Fake?
Yeah. Not too bad. That was the last one.
So what do I do? Like 6 out of 10, something like that?
Maybe, yes. 6 or 7.
Well, majority, I guess. That's good enough.
So that's really kind of all I got for you. You said you were just finishing up something when we were rescheduling last week. Can you tell us what that is that you're working on?
I can't. I got to keep it secret until it comes out.
Okay.
And actually, I was supposed to finish it on Friday, but I had to push it back. And thankfully, the printer's not going to be able to get to it for a couple of days anyway. I just finished it like literally 10 minutes before I got on the computer with you for this interview. So,
are you having issues with printers and stuff right now? Because I know we publish a magazine and it's getting worse and worse every month. Just not being able to distribute and print.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm having more issues with FedEx getting posters to places on time than I am with the actual printers.
Yeah.
The printers I've been working with recently have been pretty amazing, turning stuff around and unreal deadlines. I don't understand how they do it, but they've been doing great lately. It's FedEx that can't get their act together. It seems delays every time, but
yeah,
I guess that's not necessarily their fault. I'm sure there's supply chain issues everywhere right now, but
yeah, for sure.
Thankfully, the posters are still being printed well, and they are getting to the places eventually. And so far, I haven't run into a situation where the posters haven't made it to the venue in time. So I've seen that happen a couple times recently with some other artists, and that's got to be a real bummer. So I'm thankful that hasn't happened to me yet.
Yeah, I know a lot of bands are having issues with their vinyl, and like I said, with us printing magazine stuff is hard, and we're almost like a full month behind. Like we're putting out the September issue in like middle of October, and it's just like getting worse every month. But
that's tough.
You know, yeah, it is what it is. So I don't know. Anything else you want to plug? You want to tell anyone to go anywhere special and buy your posters or anything else?
No, I guess not. Um, like I said, I got a few things in the works. So I guess I would just tell people to keep an eye on my Instagram, and that's kind of where I announce all my stuff for the most part, and see what I got coming up. But yeah, nothing unfortunately that I can share until the band puts it out themselves. But
Right on.
yeah, just just got some stuff in the works, so watch out for that. But yeah, just thank you for having me on here, and I really appreciate it. It really helps. You know, I think it really helps people that do follow my work to kind of put a face with the work, and kind of get a little bit more of a kind of a rounded idea of who I am as a person, I suppose. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for being here, man. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of your work for a long time, and I'm looking forward to whatever else you're putting out next. So I appreciate your
Awesome.
time and hanging out with us
Definitely.
for a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks again. I appreciate
All
it.
right. Later.
All right. Take it easy.